Principles Show daily podcast by and for you.
All right, so we're diving deep into Iran's mineral scene today. Sifting through all the dirt to find the real gems.
Can't they have fun?
It is. And we've got this really interesting article from the BRICS joint website. It's called Iran's Mineral Exports Reach $6.3 billion in first half of 2024.
Yeah, saw that one.
Seems like Iran's economy is doing pretty well, right? Sparkling even.
It's a pretty flashy headline for sure. But like any good dig, we need to look beneath the surface. See what's really going on.
Right.
Yeah. 6.331 billion in exports just for the first 6 months of 2024. It's impressive.
Mm.
But the article also mentions there's been a bit of a dip compared to last year. Same time last year. That's what I thought was interesting.
Yeah, that's what caught my eye too. It's not necessarily a bad sign, but it makes you wonder what's going on behind the scenes.
Exactly. Now, the article highlights steel, aluminum, and copper. Those are the big ones, Iran's main mineral exports. And these aren't just any old metals. These are the building blocks of, well, pretty much everything.
Yeah, that's true.
Skyscrapers, smartphones, you name it. The whole modern world relies on them. And as global demand for these materials keeps growing, well, Iran finds itself in a pretty powerful position.
It's like they hit a gold mine at the perfect time. Or I guess steel, aluminum, and copper mine.
Right, exactly.
But digging a little deeper, I noticed this thing, Imidro. What's that all about?
Imidro. That's the Iranian Mines and Mining Industries Development and Renovation Organization.
Wow, that's a mouthful.
It is. Basically, they're the ones behind Iran's push to, well, boost production.
Oh, I see.
But also, and this is key, they're trying to improve the quality of their minerals.
Okay.
And it's not just an Iran thing either. A lot of countries have these organizations. They're all about maximizing the potential of strategic industries.
So they're like the quality control experts, making sure Iran's minerals are top-notch?
Exactly. They make sure everything meets international standards, which is super important if you're competing on the global market. Now, think about all these resources coming out of Iran. Where are they going? Who's buying all this stuff?
Well, the article mentions Austria and China, but I'm guessing it can't just be them.
You got it. Iran's basically sitting on a treasure chest that everyone wants to get their hands on. So while Austria and China are the big names, those Iranian minerals are going all over the place.
Yeah.
That's global trade for you.
Yeah.
Supply, demand, all the international relations and trade agreements. It all gets pretty complicated.
Yeah, for sure.
Determining who trades with who and for what.
Okay, so we've got this image of Iran as a major player shipping out tons of essential minerals all over the world. But there was this one thing in the article that really jumped out at me. It's like a little crack in this perfect facade.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Oh, you do?
The missing China data.
Yeah, you got it. The article says the figures for China's trade with Iran are from 2022, and they just assume it's continued into 2024. But there are no hard numbers. Why wouldn't they include that information?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's like a missing puzzle piece. And it opens up a whole world of speculation. There could be a simple reason.
Like what?
Oh, I don't know, maybe a delay in the data, bureaucracy, that kind of thing. But you have to wonder if there's something more going on. Maybe they're intentionally being a little vague, especially given, all of the complicated geopolitical stuff going on with Iran.
That's true.
It makes you think.
It's like we found a hidden room in our dig site. Definitely adds to the intrigue of this whole mineral boom.
Intrigue is putting it mildly. This is why I love digging into these topics. You start with a pretty straightforward story, but then you dig a little deeper.
Yeah.
And suddenly there's all this complexity that you didn't expect.
Totally agree. Like this whole China data thing, it just shows that there's always more to the story than what you see on the surface.
Exactly. And that's where we come in, right? To peel back the layers and help you make sense of it all.
That's what we do. Well, I'm hooked. Let's keep digging.
Let's do it.
We've been talking about all this mineral wealth, but what about Iran itself? Beyond the exports and all that, how is this boom affecting things inside Iran?
That's a great question. And it reminds us that these aren't just rocks we're shipping overseas.
Right.
It's a huge deal inside Iran, too. Economically, jobs, even geopolitically. All because of these minerals.
Okay, so break it down for me. What does this mean for regular people in Iran?
Well, for starters, think about jobs. The mining industry. It creates a lot of jobs, not just the miners themselves, but all kinds of related industries, too. Processing, transport, manufacturing, and all those jobs. They can really revitalize an area.
Oh, sure.
Especially the regions where the mines are. It boosts the local economy, Gives people a sense of progress, you know?
So it's kind of like a chain reaction.
Right.
One industry takes off, and then the effects spread to all these different parts of the country and communities.
Exactly. But it goes even deeper than that. Imagine having all this steel, aluminum, and copper right there, right in your own backyard. Iran doesn't just have to export these raw materials anymore.
They can use them themselves.
Exactly. Build up their own industries.
Wow.
Manufacture goods. Improve infrastructure. They could even reduce their reliance on imports.
It's like leveling up, right? Instead of selling ingredients, they're making the whole cake.
That's a good way to put it.
More control, more profits, and they don't have to rely on other countries as much.
And that self-sufficiency, that's a game changer for their economy and politically. It makes them less vulnerable to outside pressures, gives them more freedom to make their own decisions.
Okay, that makes sense. But we can't ignore the whole geopolitical situation. Iran's been dealing with sanctions, international scrutiny, all that stuff. How does this mineral boom play into that?
Yeah, it's complicated, no doubt about it. But having these resources, these valuable resources that everyone wants, it gives them leverage. It helps them build relationships with other countries, even if they disagree politically. Those countries still need those minerals, you know?
Right.
It's kind of like a bargaining chip, a powerful one.
So even with all those sanctions, Iran can still participate in the global economy, making deals and partnerships based on what they have.
Exactly. It's all connected. Economics and geopolitics, they go hand in hand. And for Iran, these minerals are a way to navigate that complex world. Makes that missing China data even more interesting, wouldn't you say?
Oh, totally. It's like maybe they're hiding something. Or maybe it's just a data glitch.
Who knows? But it definitely makes you think.
It does. Okay, but we have to talk about the other side of this too. The environment.
Right.
Mining can be good for the economy, but it's not exactly known for being eco-friendly. How is Iran handling that?
Yeah, that's a really important point. Mining has consequences. You're digging stuff out of the ground, using energy, creating waste. It can disrupt ecosystems. And for minerals like steel, aluminum, copper, the production process can be really energy intensive, even polluting.
So it's not just about making money.
Yeah.
They have to do it sustainably.
Absolutely.
Think about the future. Make sure the environment isn't damaged for future generations.
It's a challenge for everyone, not just Iran. Any country with a big mining industry has to figure this out. It's a global problem that needs global solutions.
So it's about finding that balance
Well,
between the economy and the environment.
that's the key. And I don't think it has to be one or the other. You
Oh.
can have economic growth and protect the environment, but you need a different mindset. It's not just about digging up resources. It's about thinking long term.
So thinking about the entire process.
Exactly. Extraction, processing, transport, manufacturing, even what happens to the stuff after we're done with it.
Recycling and all that.
Right. And it's not just about minimizing the bad stuff. You can actually use mining to make things better, like investing in renewable energy.
For the mines themselves.
Yeah. And having good waste management systems. You can even restore the areas where you've mined, make them like they were before.
Turn a harmful industry into something good for the environment.
Exactly. And this is where transparency is so important. If Iran wants to attract investors, be seen as responsible. They need to be open about how they're doing things, the good and the bad. Show the world they're serious about sustainability.
Not just saying it, but actually doing it.
Actions speak louder than words. And having data to back it up.
It's about trust, right?
Absolutely. Transparency builds trust. And trust attracts the right investors, helps them collaborate with other countries. Ultimately, that's what will make Iran's mineral boom a success.
So it's a huge challenge. Iran has to juggle all these things. Global trade, internal development, environmental protection. And they have to be open about it all.
It's a lot to manage, a real balancing act.
It's amazing how something like digging up minerals can be so connected to all these big global forces.
It really is. It shows how interconnected our world is. What happens in one place can have an effect everywhere else.
It's true. We can't just focus on one thing. Everything's linked.
Right.
Well, I think we've uncovered some really interesting stuff today. From the global demand to the environmental concerns and the geopolitics, it's been a good deep dive.
We've covered a lot of ground.
And this is just the beginning of the story. What Iran does next will shape their future and have an impact on the whole world.
Absolutely. Lots of opportunities, lots of challenges too.
It's an exciting but kind of daunting story. It makes you realize how important it is to stay informed, think critically, try to see things from different perspectives.
I couldn't agree more.
Welcome back. It's been quite a journey exploring Iran's mineral industry.
Yeah, it really has, like going down a rabbit hole.
A rabbit hole full of minerals and economics and geopolitics. Who knew it would be so complex?
And a little bit of mystery too, right? With that missing data.
Oh, yeah, definitely. But hey, it just goes to show that even something like minerals, it can have a big impact all over the world.
It really can.
So as we wrap things up here, what are the key takeaways? What should our listeners remember?
Well, first off, Iran's mineral sector is a major force. They're a big player on the world stage, and they're only going to get bigger.
That's for sure.
That's $6.3 billion in exports. Even with the dip, it shows just how strong they are.
It's a big number.
But it's not just about the money. It's about what Iran can do with this wealth. Build up their own industries, create jobs, become more powerful, both at home and internationally.
Makes sense. But it's not all easy, right? We talked about the environmental challenges and the need for more transparency.
Yeah, those are big issues. How Iran handles those will determine if this boom is a good thing or a bad thing in the long run.
It's a balancing act for sure.
It is. And it reminds us that economic growth has to be sustainable.
Right. We can't just focus on short-term profits.
Exactly. You got to think about the long term, especially when it comes to the planet. The goal is to find that sweet spot where prosperity and environmental protection go hand in hand, and where social responsibility and good governance are part of the equation too.
We've talked a lot about the global side of things, but I think it's also important to consider the domestic impact.
Within Iran itself.
Exactly. The article focused on exports, but what about consumption inside the country? How are those minerals being used by Iranians?
It's a good question, and it's something we need to look into more. The article focused on the outward flow of minerals, but what about the inward flow?
Yeah, what's happening inside Iran?
We need to understand that too if we want the full picture.
It's like looking at a tree. We've been focused on the branches, the exports, but now we need to examine the roots, the foundation. How are these minerals being used to support Iran's own development?
Exactly. Are they investing in infrastructure? Things like roads and railways, energy grids. Those are crucial for any growing economy.
And what about manufacturing? Are they using those minerals to build new factories or expand the ones they already have?
It's a whole other side to the story. If they're using these resources strategically, thinking long-term, it shows a commitment to self-sufficiency and resilience.
Instead of just selling everything off.
Right. And it raises a whole new set of questions. What are their priorities? What industries are they focusing on? And how are these decisions affecting the lives of everyday Iranians?
Fascinating stuff. We've gone from the global picture to this really focused look at what's happening inside Iran.
And that's the thing, right? Every story has multiple layers. To really understand something like this mineral boom, you got to look at it from all angles.
Well, I think we've given our listeners a lot to think about today. Hopefully we've sparked their curiosity and given them some tools to explore this issue further.
I hope so too.
It's been great discussing this with you.
My pleasure.
And to our listeners, keep digging.
Yeah.
Keep asking questions. There's a whole world of information out there, and we're here to help you navigate it.
Until next time.
Happy digging, everyone.